This week on the Steam Machine Podcast, Yume no Gemu Ongaku o Nogashimashou! Welcome back to another episode of the Steam Machine Podcast. My name is Dalton, and joining me this week is both of the Shoutout bros.
Moshi Moshi, it's Nate.
Konnichiwa, it's Willie.
And also joining me is the one, the only, the illustrious, the CES Symposium man himself.
I'm never going to hear the end of that, am I? Ever.
We respected you went to Vegas for us, and we're not salty about it at all.
I mean, as salty as that alleged convention I went to.
It's a good taste. It left a good taste in your mouth, didn't it?
Hi, I'm thinking of a certain H word.
Hi, I'm TeamRetrogue. These guys are making me not want to be on the show anymore.
Hey, if you want, we can start again. I apologize.
No. I'm just messing.
I had an opening and I had to go for it.
That is what she said.
Woo!
So, boys, what you been up to? Let's start with Nate. You got a cool-ass guitar in the background.
Do have a cool-ass guitar in the background. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, so it hasn't been too long since I've been on the show for once. So that's pretty good. So I've been going through some games, playing some games lately, and let's do a little amendment onto one of the previous episodes. Because now we have another person that can give a review or score rating for the Unfinished Swan, because I have finished that since the last episode we recorded.
Hey, Swan finishers, nice. Let's go.
Yeah, the Swan is finished. So I listened to your episode about it too, so I could kind of get the vibe and how we all felt about it. I will say I did enjoy this game. I think I enjoyed it less than the other three of you guys did. I thought it was really fun. I really liked the mechanics. I think that it wore a little bit thinner as it went on. Like, it was really cool and exciting when you first started, but then, like, once you get to the end of it, you're kind of like, yeah, I get it. And I didn't really love the dark stages too much. So, but no, overall, I think it was a really good game. I think it had a good story and message to it. So I'm going to come here and give it three. Wow. No, not 3, Nathan. Give it 7.5 frogs out of 10 gates.
Oh, we got another rating.
That's respectable. That is very respectable. I think one of the reasons that that game stuck with me so hard was I first played it on PS3. So back then I had never really played anything like that. You know what I mean? And it was like, whoa, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where context makes a big difference, because you'd never seen anything like it before, and that was several years ago before I played it in 2025. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like when we went back and played Half-Life. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously it's a different game completely, but the experience is the same, where it's like we came at it years later. So It's like, while we saw I could see why this blew people's minds back in the day compared to what we have now. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
although Half-Life at least explained a lot of other games we played.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of like the Seinfeld theory, right? Like, everybody's done everything Seinfeld did that made it unique back then. So if you're trying to watch Seinfeld for the first time now, it just doesn't do anything for you because you've kind of seen everything that it's done. But
yeah, but you could also just watch The League, or you could watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they're funnier than Seinfeld too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. With Half-Life in particular, you can play games that came after it that are more fun than playing Half-Life is now.
Oh, I see what you mean.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So
that's a good point.
But yeah, other than that, I've been trying out a couple other games. Well, I can't really say trying out, because this is a game that I used to play a lot, and I'm getting back into a little bit. I finally, after all these years since I've had my Switch, deleted my save file on Breath of the Wild and started a new playthrough of Breath of the Wild.
Hey! Look at you go.
Because that was one of the first 3 games I had on the Switch, and I have had my same save file this entire time, but I was just like, you know what? I want to experience it from the beginning again.
You know,
your joy of playing Breath of the Wild actually is one of the things that sold me on the Switch in the first place. Like, that's why it was one of the games I wanted to get immediately.
Yeah.
That was the first game I bought digitally, because when I got my Switch, I could not find a physical version of it. I've beaten one of the, I'll call it Elder Beasts, because I don't remember what they're called. But, like, I've beaten one of them, and I've got, like, 86 hours into that game.
Yeah.
Divine Beasts.
But it's a game you can spend so much time in. That's kind of what I wanted, because it's like, you have... almost at Elden Ring, that's not right. You have Elder Scrolls V Skyrim that you can run around and spend a lot of time with. I feel like this game gives me some of those similar vibes where, like, I'm that familiar with it at this point, and I've enjoyed it that much that I can go back in and do all those things over again and still just experience the joy of them again, because it's just a really fun and good game, and the weapon breaking mechanic doesn't bother me nearly as much as it does you guys.
I
also feel like...
Go ahead, Willie.
Breath of the Wild really, to me, advanced open world games so much that, like, playing games that came out before it kind of feels like, oh, this is a primitive version of what Breath of the Wild would be. Like, this shit is the fertilizer that would become the seeds that grew this game.
It's like, oh, this is what it was like to play without a glider.
Yeah. Dude, it's insane how much just having a paraglider and just, like, all of that, like...
I mean, they added one to Skyrim.
Yeah.
And it's like, even games like Pokemon Legends Arceus, which came out afterwards, obviously, it has a paraglider in it too, because it's like, it's such an integral part of open world games now, because it was that much fun to play in Breath of the Wild.
Fucking, what, Immortals Phoenix Rising had one. Yep. Fucking, I mean, even then, though, like, it's not that dissimilar from Just Cause, which I think was an earlier game.
Isn't the paraglider a Pokemon?
Those games are great.
In Legends Arceus, isn't it Braviary?
Yeah, it's Braviary.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to have so much... So in Just Cause, this is just a side tangent. In Just Cause, you have a grappling hook that shoots out, like, scorpions get over here, but it pulls you to whatever. Dude, I would just be... So you'd be flying a plane, and you could hop out of the plane, and then stand on top of it and aim your gun and shoot at people. So I would shoot at something, and then I could grappling hook over to it off my plane, shoot it until it was about to blow up, and grappling hook back to my plane, go over there and get it. And if my plane was going to blow up, dude, you could just hop off, wingsuit, fly. We start getting too low, pop your parachute, sail on. Dude, the mobility and they called it Just Cause because, you know, in the game you're fighting for a just cause, but also you can do a bunch of shit just cause.
Just cause. Yeah.
It's fantastic. We should do it for the show sometime.
Yeah.
I really would like to play
Why would we do it for
actually.
the show?
Just cause.
Yeah. Just cause.
Thanks for picking up on that.
Oh yeah, man. So I've been enjoying playing Breath of the Wild again. Like, I'm still really early on and I haven't done any of the Divine Beasts yet, but like just seeing all of it again, like I've been spending time doing stupid stuff again, like finding funny and stupid ways to kill hordes of the enemies at once, just because. And it made me think, 'cause like I played Tears of the Kingdom when it came out too. And in a lot of ways, I think Tears of the Kingdom is the better game, but I also think, and this is very much just because I played it earlier, I think there's a more pure experience to playing Breath of the Wild.
I think that's true because, like, I think the problem with Tears of the Kingdom 2 is, like, a lot of the puzzle making is just, like, build a vehicle to solve this puzzle. Whereas I think Breath of the Wild had a, like, more pure of a sense of, you know, using your abilities directly.
Yeah. And I think that's
It wasn't just make a car.
Yeah, which is really cool that they implemented that. It feels like way too advanced for what the systems should be capable of, the things you can do in Tears of the Kingdom.
It's fucking nuts.
But
it's fucking crazy.
I still, for some reason, I think Breath of the Wild might be the more fun game.
I'm actually in 100% agreement with you there. I am currently going through I want to say it's like about a year and a half Breath of the Wild file because it's been on and off for me. And I'm on my second Divine Beast, and I'm actually playing the Wii U version on my Steam Deck with a durability cheat, because fuck weapon breaking. And yeah, I cannot get into Tears of the Kingdom for the life of me. I actually borderline do not like that game. And Breath of the Wild is just still great.
Yeah. I've beaten Tears of the Kingdom. I still think it's a really good game. I think in a lot of ways it's a better game. But like I said, I just like Breath of the Wild more.
I mean, I could see why. I think Tears of the Kingdom has too freaking much.
And that's the thing. It's like they originally were, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were originally trying to build a DLC for Breath of the Wild, and they just did too much, and it ended up having to make it a second game, kind of like Silk Song, which is never going to come out. So at least we did get Tears of the Kingdom in some way, shape, or form.
That happened with one of the was it Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think, had a DLC that ended up having to have its own cart because it was so big.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, that was 2. I think it was like something. I forget what it was, but yeah, it's a whole different game.
Something dark side.
That's a Family Guy.
It's not the upside. No, it's not.
And then, other than that, I finally started this new Metroidvania I've been wanting to try for a long time called Nine Souls, which is supposed to be the best Metroidvania since Hollow Knight kind of thing. I played through the intro segments of it the other day. I haven't gotten too far, only 37 minutes, and it has a lot more exposition than like Hollow Knight does. Because like when Hollow Knight says it's Souls-like, it means it's Souls-like. It doesn't have a lot of dialogue. It just kind of hints at the story rather than laying it out for you. This game does a lot more telling of the story than showing, kind of like Elden Ring and Hollow Knight do. So it's like, it's an adjustment. I don't feel like I've had anywhere near as much gameplay as I have with these other games, just because it's a lot more exposition.
Nine Souls has been brought up to me as like one of the best Metroidvania games. Also, you played Axiom Verge, which is another one that was like highly recommended to me. How did you feel about that one?
That was pretty good. That one feels more like an old school Metroid game than it does like a modern Metroidvania. It's like that one's kind of reaching for feeling like it belongs in the past, more like what if Super Metroid felt better kind of thing.
Okay, so kind of like La Milana, where it was like deliberately nostalgic.
Yeah, whereas I feel like Nine Souls is going more for its own thing that's more inspired by Hollow Knight, but does a lot more, like I said, expositions, dialogue than Hollow Knight did.
You've certainly got me wanting to play Nine Souls.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'll get further in it and report back, but that's where I am for now. Yeah. And then shout-outs to Mikolov, of course, because he sent me out another handheld after mine kind of started crapping the bed. And so, like, I had a lot of fun getting that set up, because I didn't realize I asked for the wrong OS to be put on it. So I spent last night with Mikolov's assistance installing a new OS on it and got it all up and running, got everything scraped today, and it's running good. I feel like I could be part of TeamRetrogue's YouTube channel now after doing all that.
Welcome to the world of custom firmware.
Dude, I'll tell you, one of the most nerve-wracking things I ever did was jailbreaking my PS3, because at the time I did it over file transfer, like PS3 file transfer, and that is so sketch. I was so happy that it worked and my internet just didn't decide to go out, because they were like, by the way, if this fails in the middle of it, it has a chance to break your PS3. I'm like, oh, great.
I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit worried, too, because like my computer doesn't have its own like slots for SD cards. So I had to use like this thing, which is like a plug-in thing where it has an SD card reader on it. And for some reason, like sometimes it just goes out. So while I was copying files over, I was like, please don't go out while I'm doing this.
Ooh.
I have to use one too. It's one of these little things to like, stick your little thing in there. Yeah,
I don't have a little thing to stick in there, Dalton. But
I have a Samsung one. It's just a single reader. Came with an SD card.
It held together, though, and I got it all put together, so I'm happy, and it's running great now. So I've got everything tested and hooked back up to retro achievements, so A+, good stuff. And it seems like a much nicer handheld. I hope you didn't set yourself out too much for it.
It cost me $0, because I just asked a buddy of mine who's in the scene if he had any extra handhelds lying around. He said, I got this one. He sent it to me, and I sent it to you.
Sweet.
Beautiful.
Handholds George is an exception and should not have been counted.
Yeah, well, you have to consider, too, like, I had got myself down to 16 handhelds.
No, I'd get you down in 16 handhelds, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I
don't know what I'm saying.
I literally have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah, Willie, you're in a mood today.
Dude, I don't know. Sometimes you got to do the spicy jokes for the fans.
The kids would say you
shippers.
have negative aura.
Whoa, no, that's not true. I have wicked aura.
Wicked aura.
Yeah, man, wicked.
What the
Wicked aura.
Wicked.
What the
Willie, what have you been
Sigma?
up to?
Right,
what I've been up to, don't
Ligma balls?
You don't want.
Capitan?
To all the Team
I've actually been
Retrogue
playing a
fans
lot-
out there, this is an 18 plus podcast. I'm sorry.
Yeah, say that after you've already fucking aired. I've actually been playing a lot of a card game called Scoundrel, which is a really fun solitaire type game. It's also like a roguelike that you can play with a basic deck of cards.
Interesting.
Nice. I think it was
So the idea is
Dane told me about that.
Oh, did Dane tell you about that?
I think it was.
It popped up huge on YouTube a little while ago, and I watched it and I was like, yeah, I've got to try to play it. But basically, the idea is like you take a normal 52 card deck, and then you remove the face cards and the aces from the red parts of the deck, and then essentially you deal out a room of 4 cards, and spades and clubs are monsters. You can fight those. There's if you use a shit, I'm blanking. Sorry. So spades and clubs are monsters. If you put those down, you get to fight those. A red card, a diamond is a weapon. So if you equip that weapon, then you lose less health when you're fighting a monster, essentially. And then there's also heart cards, which are health potions, so you gain health back. And so essentially the idea is that you have to choose, whenever you see a room full of cards, you can either decide how to fight it, or you can pass and put those back into the bottom of the deck and start a new room. But you can't pass 2 rooms in a row, so you have to basically fight at some point. So the idea is you have to use the weapons to mitigate as much damage as you can to survive. But the other interesting thing is, if you have, say you have a 10 of diamonds as your weapon, and you fight a queen. So a queen is only 2 above a 10, so you would take 2 damage, right? But then you cannot use that weapon again to fight enemies that are bigger than a queen. You have to fight only jacks or smaller with that weapon, or else you have to change your weapon when you see another diamond.
Okay. I think I can pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah, I mean, it ends up making a lot of really interesting decisions. Because also, you can see a room full of red cards and be like, yes, these are all helpful to me, but I need to run away from them because I don't want to give up my current weapon, because I don't want to drop a 10 of diamonds for a 2 of diamonds, because if I do, then I'm going to be taking more damage. Because basically you subtract the damage your card has from the enemy. So if you have a 10 of diamonds as your current weapon and you fight an ace of spades, which is a 14, you only take 4 damage. Whereas if you were to fight the ace alone, you would take 14 damage.
Okay. Well, that seems interesting. And it's something that you can just play by yourself too, which I think is cool.
Is there a video game?
Yeah,
version
exactly.
Of this?
Someone has made a version of it, on Reddit, but for the most part, it's basically just meant to be a solitaire card game.
Okay. I'm interested.
I've considered making a version of it myself as a computer game to see how it would work as just an exercise. But I mean, it's I think more fun to play it with a deck of cards too, because it's you lay them out and you're like, okay, so this is my weapon, and then you flip it over and all that. I don't know, it's fun, it's interesting, it's weird.
Oh, that's what's up, man.
So the game is called Scoundrel. It's freely available online. Check it out, people.
So what else have you been up to, brother?
That was it. That was. I just wanted to plug Scoundrel. I thought it was really interesting. A roguelike game that you can play with a deck of cards without a computer. That's really neat to me.
Oh yeah. Well, then that brings us to Mikolov.
I haven't been here in a
You got a pair
while.
of black headphones on.
I haven't been here for a while. I feel like it's been a month.
I know, you fuck.
What?
How you been?
I thought we killed you in Las Vegas.
I haven't been in Vegas since January. It's almost April.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we thought we killed you.
No, I just wanted to go all in on Yakuza 5, so I kind of put the short game aside and let you guys race some Micro Machine type things while I hung out in Japan with our boys and gal.
Yeah. You didn't miss much.
Yeah, no, I listened to the episode. It sounded like it was hot garbage. So I'm kind of...
It's funny because it wasn't even the worst game ever, but the more we talked about it, the more pissed off about that game I got.
So, yeah, no, what I've been up to is mostly just trying to find time in between, family, kids, work, to, maintain a YouTube channel, as well as play some Yakuza 5. And I still didn't beat the Dane game. But I'm about 42 hours into it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Other than that, I have been messing with some handhelds that have caused quite a bit of drama in the scene. One of them I've been kind of showing you guys all night, and it's a little handheld called the Retroid Pocket Mini. And the funny thing about this handheld is it's actually on its own a really nice handheld. It's a small form factor, 4x3 screen, OLED.
Screen's really nice. Yeah, I'm not surprised it's OLED because the blacks are really deep.
Yeah. All glass front, really ergonomic. It's got these nice bumps in the back. And I don't know, I just really like this little handheld. Well, apparently, for those who are into RetroArch, and I know, Willie, you kind of mess with RetroArch quite a bit.
Yeah.
There is an issue with this screen where these shaders don't render properly to the resolution of the screen. Well, come to find out, this is not a 4x3 screen. This is actually a square screen taken from the bottom half of an LG Wing, and they basically just set the screen to be a 4x3 resolution, and they cut the top and the bottom off, and they put the bezel... Well, they didn't cut them physically, the screen is still there, but they OCA laminated it so that the top and the bottom of the screen is covered by the bezels. And so that's why shaders aren't rendering properly, because the resolution of the screen doesn't match the rendering resolution. And
that seems so such a weird choice.
I want to say it was to cut costs, because a lot of these handhelds have been coming out lately with these square 720 by 720 screens like this one here. Like, this is kind of a pixel perfect Game Boy type screen, and Pico 8 runs on this. Sweet. What was that, Dalton?
I just said that looks sweet.
Oh, this...
It just looked... I like the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, no, this thing is beautiful. This is the RG Cube XX. I like the all white.
Yeah, it's sleek looking.
Do you know what resolution the Pico 8 runs in, by the way?
It's pixel perfect on this.
Cool, because it's 128 by 128, so it doesn't sound like the math should work.
It's 720 by 720, so...
Yeah, that doesn't factor correctly.
It doesn't scale, because I want to say there's some integer scaling nonsense going on. Maybe this isn't a 7, maybe it's a 480. I don't know. Either way, see, now you got me thinking. Now while I'm talking, I'm going to boot this up and see what Pico 8 looks like. Watch the battery be dead, because I haven't touched this in months. So, like...
I'm already causing problems on the podcast.
A lot of these screens, and I'm like holding this up, I know it's an audio podcast, but a lot of these screens have come out on these handhelds, so they're readily available. So I want to say that was the cheapest OLED panel that they could find, and they knew that their audience wanted a 4x3 screen, so they just kind of did some hacky engineering to get it to work right. And man,
the damn thing is the contrast looks really good. It really looks lovely.
I guess the problem comes in when you try to use CRT shaders, which is not something that I normally use, because I am not going to put a CRT shader on something that is too small to appreciate. Like, a CRT shader for me would be something like on a television. But
well, that's like me and you were talking about it last night when I was playing GTA Online. I was like, when have you ever seen a CRT screen on a handheld?
You never have.
No, they're all just dot matrix screens.
Dot matrix, exactly. Like, it was never CRT. Like, and they have their own filters and colorizations when it comes to Game Boy. And so But I
get the idea of if you wanted to emulate an older TV system game on a handheld, you might want a lightweight CRT filter.
So there's Pico 8, by the way, on the
nice.
RG Cube XX.
Oh, it's a little melon game.
I love the little melon game. This thing is fantastic. But yeah, look, it's a perfect integer scale.
No, it does look perfectly integer scale.
Yeah. So, man, I haven't touched this thing in forever. I might sign off the podcast and play on it now. All right, bye. Yeah, bye. Like, people pitchforked and called for the company to go bankrupt. They doxed their social media manager. He ended up quitting. I think he's back now.
Good grief, it's not a Tesla. Come on.
Like, yeah.
It's super unnecessary.
So, like, my response to all this is I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to find out what the problem is. Like, why are people so angry about this thing? And all I've been doing is having fun on it. So, I'm going to make a video pretty soon, and I'm probably going to, like, get the pitchforks out again. But I
feel like... Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
I thought you were finished.
Oh, no. All I was going to say is, like, the company is, like, doing all these things. Like, they offered 200 refunds, and those 200 refunds got filled up quick, and then the pitchforks came out again. And then they said, we will ship you out a front screen that actually doesn't have the cutoff at the top, and you could do a DIY. Like, they're trying, and then they said, we're going to come out with a new version of this that actually has a proper 4x3 OLED screen. We just hired a company and put down $1 million down payment to get them to engineer the screen for our next handheld. So they're doing, like, everything in their power to make it right. They're giving coupons to everybody who bought the Mini.
And how much was this handheld? Like...
Yeah, it seems like it's a budget fucking system that is worth this much bitching.
It's the Retrogue Pocket Mini. It's about $200 handheld.
Go outside, nerds.
200,
okay. So
it reminds me of the new Assassin's Creed game.
Shadows?
Like, people were up in arms about that game before it ever even came out, just bitching and complaining. And now that it's out, it's got like really positive reviews. Apparently, it's a fucking good game. Who'd have thought?
That's because people just like to shit on Ubisoft because they have some bad business practices, but like, you can't judge the game before it comes out, and then people are...
It wasn't even that, though. I think people were like mad that like it had a black samurai in it, and it's like there was actually a really famous black samurai
of course that's why.
in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, you know how people be these days.
But yeah, there was apparently like a legendary black samurai who absolutely whipped ass at his samurai ship.
I've actually like here recently, and again, social media is a cesspool just in general, but like
this is why most of us have moved off of Twitter and onto a Blue Sky at this point. So if you want to follow us on Blue Sky, because we ain't on Twitter no more.
I'm still on Twitter. I got in a fight with a YouTuber on Twitter recently.
Well,
yeah, that sounds great. It's an endorsement for Twitter for sure.
I've been unfollowing a bunch of like nerd groups that I was in on Facebook because I tried to cultivate my Facebook where I saw wrestling, animals, and video game stuff, and now it's that and politics. But like the nerd groups that I was in, dude, there were some people coming out of the woodwork saying some shit in those groups, and it was just not being moderated. And I'm just like, it amazes me that you guys are geeks and feel this way.
Yeah.
Like, you're like a part of a community where the idea is like, we were the ones that were bullied, we were the ones that were hurt, and then you want to just use that the moment you're not being bullied, you're like, now I'm gonna say some really transphobic or homophobic or racist shit,
or I'm gonna dox people or send death threats, or like
send death threats to devs because they made a game where you have pronouns.
Like, I don't know, like, the outrage culture is kind of getting to me a little bit, and it's not just me, like, I've been talking...
And have you noticed it's only the conservative snowflakes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, dude, like, I mean, yes, there are people that have liberal politics who have stupid-ass answers. Like, if you look at fucking Blue Sky and you read the comments... there's a ton of liberals that don't get jokes that show up in the comments.
That's true, too. That is also true.
But it's like, they're just like people that don't get jokes. They're not like these toxic assholes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as I was saying,
sorry, bro.
All right. I had talking to a couple of YouTubers that almost quit. I almost quit. Like, I was just like, if this is what the community is going to be like, do I really want to be part of that? But thankfully, things have kind of petered out a little bit. I think people have found other things to be upset about. But I'm still going to make a video because I'm going to title it basically like, your Retroid Pocket Mini is just fine. That's going to be my title. And then I'll just
do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give an objective kind of like, re-review of the unit and be like, you know what? I've been having fun with this thing, and here's why.
If you want,
you send me a old school PAL kitty, and it's like it fucking plays games, and I get to play on. It's fun. Like I'm not gonna sit here and go, oh, this isn't the RGB 30. It's a different one. This is wrong.
Mick,
I'm gonna be like, I'm grateful that you sent it to me.
I'm gonna send you a clip of me I'm gonna do this. Hey, shut up. And then you can just edit that in. You can be like, so for all the people who have been complaining, this is really my only suggestion. It just cuts to just some random fat guy that no one's gonna know by the look. Hey, shut up.
I mean, I got stuff planned for that video. I'm probably gonna have that come out next week sometime. I'm still gonna plan my April Fool's video. Nefarious is hard at work figuring out how we're gonna do that. I think we're gonna actually integrate Kyle into that one somehow, which is gonna be fun. It'll be his YouTube debut.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, and
debut tube.
Oh my gosh, I'm usually the one with all the dad jokes until I come in here into Steam Machine recording chat, and I just get out dad joked by the non-dads.
Well, see, here you go, McLove. You can take these and use these against your own family, and that way you're even better at it.
That's true.
You can take these dad jokes and shove them.
I mean, okay. So the other thing I've been working on is breaking Switch Lites. So... that dog's just laughing. So, I got an OLED screen for the Switch Lite, third party, obviously, and it didn't work. I installed it, didn't work. And so, I reached out to the company, and they basically told me I broke it. And so that ended up being an interesting... I put out a video, I'm like, it doesn't work, and they told me I broke it. That was fun. And so that's where I ended up getting into the argument on Twitter with the CEO of the company, who's a former YouTuber. And what ended up happening is they ended up basically saying, we'll give you a C grade replacement, which actually is still a good screen, for half price. And I ended up being a sucker and buying it. And so I installed that on a brand new Switch Lite, and the screen works. The unit's fine, it's beautiful, it's all nice and reshelled. The fan won't shut off. So I have this wonderful OLED Switch Lite that doubles as a personal fan, because I could just hold the top where the exhaust comes out just up and be on the home screen, and it's just full blast all the time. I probably did something to the sensor while I was poking around in there. And now the sensor thinks that it's just hot all the time. And I got to a point where I'm just like, you know what? This is fine. I'm okay with this. It's just a fan. I'll just put headphones on.
It was only a fan. It was only a fan. Now I'm calling asleep.
Funny thing is I put it in a drawer and I haven't touched it since. I fuck this thing.
Fuck this Switch.
So.
Jealousy time.
That's probably enough of what I've been up to lately. That's just breaking shit.
Just pulling a lip biscuit on it. I got you.
Yeah. Break stuff. Damn it, Nate. I was about to make the same fucking joke.
Gotta be quicker.
Oh, you gotta be quicker than that.
That ad was funny as hell.
So I guess that just leaves me. I have been severely lacking sleep the past month. I don't know what's been going on. I sleep, but I don't sleep well. I just toss and turn. So if I'm a bit out of it tonight, I do apologize. But I did roll credits finally on Pillars of Eternity.
Yo, congrats.
Started that back in January and got around to beating that. Skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want spoilers for Pillars of Eternity, because I know neither of you three are ever going to play it. So, all right, you've had enough time. So basically the game goes through and you are like this watcher of sorts, and you can kind of see people's souls and you kind of see desire. Like if people have died, you can go and touch something and kind of see what happened and things like that. It's a very interesting thing. So at the end of the game, you're going through all of this trying to appease the gods. You have to go and you have to get the blessing of one of the gods. I chose Halia. So all of a sudden at the end, you come upon this girl, and the girl's like, there are no gods. the gods were created by man as a means to control the masses. And I'm like, whoa, they went this direction with it. All right, let's do this. So she was like, after all this, you still have your faith. And the character I was role playing, I was just like, I'm just doing what I have to do for the betterment of humanity. And she was just like, all right, then go and do what you got to do. And I went and did what I had to do, and I rolled credits.
All right.
Fantastic game. I give it a solid 8.5. Very good. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire has pirate stuff and ships that you can pilot and stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting further into that. I've also been playing The House in Fata Morgana, or as Willie wrote me one night, who's Fat Morgan and what house? Why is there a house in them? And I laughed and laughed and laughed at that. But yeah, it's a visual novel, and it's less of your like run of the mill anime look, like Doki Doki. It's not that style at all.
The art style was really cool. Actually, you did send us some important screenshots of it, and it did look really sick.
Yeah, it's a very, very pretty art style to the game, and the story has been gripping. I can tell I'm nearing the end of it, so I'll be probably getting another -2 here soon, because it's a hefty boy of a visual novel. But I have really, really been enjoying it. If you're a fan of visual novels, I recommend it highly. The next visual novel I have to dive into once I'm done with that is either going to be the second chapter of Higurashi, or I'm going to check out The Fruits of Grisaya. So I'll figure it out.
If you do end up doing Higurashi, please let me know what goes on in it, because I'm very interested in where that story progresses.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So John Cena turned heel. So I went on the Mortal Kombat 1 store, and I got Peacemaker, so I can now kill people with John Cena, because I feel like it's fitting now.
Nice.
Other than that,
when you downloaded that character, was it just invisible?
So you can see his Peacemaker outfit, so you kind of know he's there. But here's the funny thing about that Mikolov. In the WWE games now, and like in 2K24 and now in 2K25, there is a character called Super Cena, and it has max stats, and it is a pair of shoes, a pair of shorts, a wristband, and like an armband, and that's all you can see. Like, he is completely invisible except his gear.
They lean into it,
and it's hilarious. Oh man, so just a quick side note, when he was cutting his first heel promo on Raw, he brought up that he's like, 20 years of this stupid joke. I'm invisible. Oh, you guys think you're so funny. He went on a whole thing about it, and I was like, I bet that's in character, but also I bet that's somewhat cathartic for him to like just let out about it. Let's see. I've been fucking around in GTA Online again, messing around with some horse racing and doing some other stuff. I got Madden 25 because it was stupid cheap, and I put us all. So they have a website called Madden Team Builder. You can go on there. You can build a whole team, create it. So I made the TSMP backlogs, and I downloaded it, and it wouldn't let me download it in the game. So I created another team. Same thing. So I said, all right, fuck it. I'm putting this on the Jaguars in the game. So we're all on the Jaguars, and we've broken some records already. Willie's broken the rush records because he's the halfback.
I told him to make me look like Joreid Allen, by the way, and he gave me number 69, because that is also a thing Joreid Allen wore. So I'm very happy about that.
Nate, you were one of my star defense players.
Our defense is insane. We had gave up negative yards in one game recently.
Yeah, the defense is beast. So everyone that's not us, actually, I think even us, I think I made everyone on the team is 7 foot, 400 pounds. Mikolov, you're a wide receiver.
Okay, I have no idea what that means.
You're quite good at it.
It means you
run
catch
far,
patches.
I throw ball, you catch ball, we get touchdown.
Okay, thank you for explaining that in Caveman, because that's what I needed to hear.
I play Madden not like a lot of people. Like, oh, it's first down, I'm throwing a Hail Mary. Oh, it's third down, I'm going to run the ball. And I feel like the computer sometimes just doesn't know how to fucking handle me. And I love it. It makes me happy in pants.
So when you get to third base, you have a touchdown at the 5th down?
Yes.
I think that Mikolov is having a stroke.
And
frankly, I want to join him. I'll help stroke him.
One one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and then we can move on to our game of the week. Is I read that they fixed the Grand Theft Auto Definitive Trilogy, and it was on sale, so I snagged that. And yeah, that's been a lot of fun replaying through San Andreas. Though let me tell you, going from the smooth gameplay in Grand Theft Auto 5 to going back to San Andreas' PS2 shooting mechanics is like, oh boy. But it's still a good time.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I also noticed that they did something with GTA 5, like they had an enhanced edition or something like that. Have you tried that out?
Yeah. So that's what it's really what's made me dive back into playing the online a little bit. Everything that they've added to the console versions, they finally ported over to as far as online goes, because online, like, consoles were ahead of PC for some reason. But in the enhanced edition, it's got like some ray tracing now. I wouldn't put it on the level of like Cyberpunk where it crashes my computer with the amount of ray tracing it has. But like they prettied it up some, and it runs pretty smooth. And now, like, in online, there's just like a lot more cars and things that you can get. And I still have the clan that I made for us. It's with our little symbol that's based on Red Dead Redemption, because we were playing RDR2 at the time. So
nice.
I walk around with that on the back of my leather jacket while I'm riding my motorcycle and stuff, gambling in the casino.
Yeah, you were playing that a little bit last night. I watched you play a little bit of it. It's a pretty smooth game.
Yeah,
I would enjoy getting back in RDR at some point.
Yeah, that would be fun. Oh, I picked up 2 Point Museum.
Oh, nice.
And it's the funnest.
Did you do the Haunted Museum?
You want to try that again?
Did you do the Haunted Museum?
No, not yet. I'm still in the first museum area. But there's a haunted one. There's an aquarium. There's a few ones that I haven't gotten to. I'm still in the first one and doing the missions for it. But okay. I'm really enjoying it so far. Like, more so than I've enjoyed the other 2 Point games, even though they're great as well. So yeah, man, that's basically what I've been up to. That and playing with my Lily girl. Got her a new herding ball.
Aw,
and that's been wearing her ass out.
Wonder if they make those for humans.
I would imagine so. Like, they make them for horses, so I'm sure you can get a big enough one to occupy a child for a while. I mean, the one that I have, like the one that I got for her, is big enough, honestly, that it would probably, like, for up to a 5 or 6 year old, entertain a kid. It's massive.
He does have an exercise ball, like one of those bouncy ball things.
Oh, those things were awesome.
Yeah, he plays with that every now and again. So
reminds me of that episode of South Park where he got Stan's dad, Randy, got nut cancer and his balls swelled up really big, and that's how he got around town.
Oh yeah, hopping around on him. Didn't other people get it on purpose just so they could do the same? Yeah,
they all wanted medical marijuana.
Oh right,
and they had to have cancer to get it, so they gave themselves testicular cancer, and then they were just bouncing in a line like.
I remember that
smoking
episode.
Weed, just bouncing on their nuts.
I remember that episode.
Jesus Christ!
Oh God,
ridiculous show.
That probably hurt like a motherfucker too. Like, your nuts are very sensitive. Like, using it as a mode of transportation.
Oh man, how you getting to the store? My nuts. These nuts. So, boys, we played a game. We played a game this past month and a half, I think is what it's been total. Yakuza 5, otherwise known as Like a Dragon 5, Fulfiller of Dreams. It is a 2012 action-adventure game developed by Ryugai Gatoku Studios and published by Sega for the PlayStation 3. The game is the 5th main entry in the Yakuza series, and the game was released in December of 2012 in Japan, localized for North America, Europe, and Australia as a PlayStation Network downloadable game in December of 2015. A remaster with improved resolution and frame rate was released for the PlayStation 4 in 2019 in Japan and 2020 worldwide as part of the Yakuza Remastered collection. Versions for Windows and Xbox were released January 2021. So here's a fun fact. This game originally was only released in America, or was only released outside of Japan as a digital-only game. But they released a box copy, like a PS3 box for Yakuza 5 that would be empty. But it was for collectors, so they wouldn't have a slot empty between Yakuzas.
That's weird. Huh.
That's interesting.
I'm okay with that. I like collecting physical stuff, so if I were into Yakuza more, I would totally buy an empty box.
No, I get it. I just thought it was interesting that they did that for their fans.
Yeah.
So, first impressions. I'm going to start off with Mikolov, because Mikolov, this is really your first deep dive into a Yakuza game. So, what were your feelings going into it, how did the opening and stuff make you feel?
So I first started playing Yakuza 0, and I need to talk, I guess, I guess this is just what I do now. I gotta talk tech a little bit when it comes to first impressions, because I'm starting to think that the reason I fell off of Yakuza 0 was because of the way Microsoft handles these games on Game Pass. And so my first impressions were playing the Xbox Game Pass version. Now, here's the problem. Xbox Game Pass has this feature called Xbox Play Anywhere. And that's basically as close to a Steam Cloud as you're going to get. Whereas if you're playing on PC, you open up the Xbox app, you download the game, and your save will carry over to the Xbox version. It works perfectly fine with games like Starfield. I think Octopath Traveler 2 is Xbox Play Anywhere. The Yakuza games are not Xbox Play Anywhere, which gives you two options. You play on Xbox or you play on PC. The save does not carry over. And so if you want to play your Xbox save on PC, you have to boot into the cloud version. So what ended up happening is after about maybe 10 hours or so into my playthrough, Dalton, you messaged me saying, if you're playing this on Game Pass, you got to get it done before the 15th. And I'm like, what? Like, Yakuza 5 is leaving Game Pass. And I'm just like, fuck, what do I do? So I tried to export my Xbox save because I thought maybe I could still play the PC version. Or I can export the save, get it on Steam, move it over, continue my progress. No, because I was playing on Xbox. There is absolutely zero way, because this game is not Play Anywhere compatible, to transfer your games over to the Steam version or any other version. Like, you cannot pull a PC save and move it to Steam, which I was able to do with Starfield when I finally decided to get that game on Steam. My Xbox save carried over just fine because that was Play Anywhere. So I almost had to start this game over after like going through most of part 1. I was like almost done with part 1 at that point. And I almost stopped playing and dipped out. But it was Willie to the rescue, because Willie has save files from each chapter. And so
I am very pleased that this finally paid off.
Yeah, so
because I literally make a save every chapter of the game, and finally it ended up helping someone.
That's basically what happened, because I was at the beginning of chapter 4 and he had a save that was right on the butt end of chapter 3. And he sends it to me. I do some importing, and hallelujah, it worked. I continued on the Steam version, and when I loaded up the Steam version, it was night and day compared to the Xbox version. It was running on ultra settings, even on a handheld, and it looked beautiful. So my first impressions are, if you are going to play the Yakuza series, just get it on Steam. Don't fuck with Game Pass, don't fuck with Xbox, don't do it on console, just get it on Steam.
Okay, I was going to say, Adam just sent a thing the other night that said that all of the Yakuza games are leaving Game Pass, I think later this month or next month.
Wow.
I was like, damn, that's weird.
But that's also what happened to me with Yakuza 0, because I played the Xbox version, and now I think that game is already off of Game Pass. And again, I wasn't able to transfer my save, so enough time has at least passed with Yakuza 0 that when I do feel the need to start that over again, I'll just start it over on Steam. And I don't mind starting it over because enough time has passed to where, like, I don't remember what happened anyway. So that's fine. But, like, for me, trying to get this ready for the show, like, I will never recommend playing this on Xbox to anybody. Just get it on Steam.
That's fair. That's fair. So, Willie, what about you, bud? What was your first impression of Yakuza 5?
Well, I really, really found it charming that, obviously the idea at the beginning of the game was that Kiryu was laying low and all that, and he was going by the name, like, Taiichi Suzuki, which is basically like if he called himself Greg Johnson. Like, it is the most basic Japanese name you could possibly have.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love that he's just like, yeah, I'm John Doe, and this is my taxi.
Moshi Moshi.
Moshi Moshi. But yeah, I really got into it. I really got addicted very early on to the side story in it. The taxi driving side story for him, and then other characters. Like, I also really enjoyed the side stories. So, like, I think the game did a great job of exploring these characters.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I have to, like, Kiryu he's so much more relatable at the beginning of Yakuza 5 than he is at the beginning of Yakuza 0. Like, I almost borderline didn't like him at the beginning of Yakuza 0. And in Yakuza 5...
Like, Yakuza 0 is like 17 years old, man. He's just trying to fucking figure his shit out.
Yeah, it's just like Blink-182. Nobody likes you when you're 23. So, but, like, as a 52-year-old seasoned man, like, very relatable and very charming.
Yeah, Kiryu's
He's a good dude.
What about you, Nate? What was your first impressions diving into this game here?
Yeah, I think this game did a really good job. It kind of drops you like directly into Kiryu because like it's the Yakuza series. It knows who the star is, so it wants to start you off with the star of the series to draw you in and bring you in, knowing that you're going to be moving on to different characters later on. I thought this did really well. Was it dropped you into the Kiryu and just immediately you're just like a taxi driver, but things immediately start going down. Like for some reason, you see the Tojo clan is in town. There's stuff going on with the Omi Alliance. You're anonymous in your taxi cab, and Daigo Dojima, the chairman of the Tojo clan, ends up in your car on purpose. It's just so much stuff to draw you in immediately and bring you into the story. I feel like this one really started hitting on the cylinders a lot faster than 3 and 4 did. So I think this one was really ready to get you moving and into the action. As far as the gameplay went as well, this one starts off so much stronger feeling than even 4 did, and especially more than 3. Like, I think this was when they started changing engines for the series, was with 5.
Yep.
And you can tell, and it feels a lot better than the previous entries.
Yeah, I concur. My first impressions are pretty much the same as yours, where it's like I got in and just immediately noticed that it felt like butter. Kiryu wasn't nearly as stiff moving around, you know what I mean? And even in the fighting and stuff, it just seemed a bit more fluid, more akin to what I was getting more used to playing Zero, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that and the whole, like, he had a mask on, I was like, oh shit, I know what that means. But no, it's just in Japan, they're just respectful like that all the time because they're wonderful people. And
it's easier to hide your identity if you wear a mask.
That's very true. Well, yeah, you say that, and
we'll talk about that later because I think we're the only two that made it there.
Well, no, not that mask.
Okay.
I'm talking about even Kiryu with his mask on right at the beginning when Daigo gets into his taxi and is like, let's go for a drive, and it's like Kiryu's like, I hope he doesn't notice it's me, and it's like, motherfucker, like, how is he not gonna know it's you? Like, he grew up around you, like even I think I could pick Kiryu's eyes out of a lot. They're just so intense and piercing. But yeah, so basically, yeah, the game starts off. You're Kiryu, but you're not. You're Taichi, and you're a taxi driver, and you can go around doing some like crazy taxi-esque missions and stuff. Which
actually, this is a sane taxi. It's sane taxi. It's not.
Yeah, this taxi is sane as fuck.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna go ahead and say right off the bat, I didn't like the taxi stuff. I liked racing, but I didn't like doing taxi missions because fucking civilians just don't give a shit. They're like, oh, you're coming at 20 miles an hour. Let me just walk right out in front of you and cause you to lose points.
You're allowed to slam on the brakes if someone jumps in the road. It doesn't actually damage the score.
Yeah, but you know, like, who likes to slow down?
I just ran this guy over and then the game is the problem.
I almost want to say even the devs didn't care for that because there's only a small amount of those actual missions, and then when you start getting into the other taxi missions, they're automated and they're just dialogue choices.
That is true.
I found that to be kind of frustrating because like I was like looking forward to seeing how they could vary it and keep it interesting, and then they're just like, no, we're done programming this. And even then, like some of those taxi missions were the same route. You just did the same taxi mission essentially over and over again.
Well, even the racing missions, you're just on that same stretch of highway going in circles. First of all, I mean, I don't understand Japanese roadways, but why is this highway a circle? And why are we racing on the same highway? Like, aren't the police going to figure this out?
Yeah. And I'm saying, I agree with you guys, and I'm saying this is somebody that completed the taxi missions. Like, I did the taxi stuff and finished it, but, like, I think it was kind of undercooked a little bit.
Oh, dude, the rubber banding in the racing was serious.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
there was insane rubber banding.
I do say it was a little undercooked, but at the same time, like, Yakuza is a series at its heart that does one thing extremely well. Like, two things extremely well, which is storytelling and combat, and then 1,000 other things adequately. I felt like driving a taxi, that was adequate. The race car driving, it was adequate. Like, yeah, no, it wasn't Sonic and All-Stars Racing transformed. No, we knew that. But, like, it was an adequate little racing game. But that's why it was a side story, and the main part of the game is the storytelling and the fighting.
I mean, I thought it was a charming little side story just because of what happens with the characters that you meet and Kiryu's boss. And that's really the missions where I started to really start to appreciate Kiryu as a character and appreciate the series as a whole, because we're out of first impressions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't want to, like, start talking a little later game stuff and then all of a sudden, like, we're still at the beginning. I'm still going to keep this part spoiler free, though. Those missions really made me appreciate Kiryu because we got to see that, no, he's not. And you guys knew this from playing the other games. I didn't. He's not just like this badass Yakuza guy, which the game is called Yakuza. So you're expecting, like, things to be, like, deep and you know, a lot of people who haven't played the games are basically like, this is just Grand Theft Auto in Japan. This is not Grand Theft Auto in Japan. Like, you actually learn to appreciate and respect these characters because they're not just asshole Yakuza. Like, Kiryu is a deep human, and he's got a complex personality, and even if he doesn't show it on his face, we get his inner monologue, and he's actually saying things like, you know, I'm really lucky to know these people, and, like, these are great people, and, like, he genuinely, and Saejima too, like, they genuinely want to do right by other people. They're just also in a situation where they have to be strong or they're going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump too far ahead yet, but yeah, I have opinions about Saejima.
Yeah. And I will say that this is probably a good point to mention that in this game there are five playable characters within the course of the game. 3 of them are characters we've played as before. One of them is a character we have seen before but has never been playable, and the other was a completely new character to this game. Between 4 and 5, they ditched the cop character, which, awesome, he was boring and nobody cared. Yay. Yeah. But between this game and 4, we did get to keep Kiryu, obviously, Taiga Saejima, Akiyama, were the 3 characters that were playable in 4. They're playable in this. This game, you get to end up playing as Haruka, which is, you know, Kiryu's adopted daughter, essentially. And there's...
Which is so strange. Like, I knew that we did that in this game, and I was so fucking, like, how is that even going to play?
Right. And then one new additional character who was Tatsuo Shinada, who was a random baseball player from years ago who is now writing for Adult Life magazines.
Shinada!
Yeah.
He's another one I heard his name yelled a lot.
Yep. So, interesting cast of characters, and the way the game is laid out, there's 5 total parts in the game. Part 1 is 4 chapters you play as Kiryu. Part 2 is 4 chapters that you play as Saejima. Part 3 is a little different. It's 4 parts, but in 2 of them you play as Haruka, and then the next 2 you play as Akiyama. And then part 4, you play as the new guy, Shinada. And then there's a finale part where you play as every character, as I'm sure you figured out if you listen to the Yakuza 4 episode, they all get together and meet up, and you get to play as all different characters within the last section of the game, leading up to the grand finale.
And I think that's one thing that Yakuza is good at, is they let you know, like, hey, you're at the point of no return. They give you a point of no return message, basically. And you can go and do all of the side stuff that you have left if you would like with the characters. I will say Haruka's is a bit before everyone else's, but there will be a point where you realize, like, oh, this is probably the last time I'll play as her. Mm-hmm. I should go finish up what I want to do. They
warn you a few times, basically saying, hey, Haruka, maybe you should go finish up anything you want to do. They're like, okay. But there is, in this game, as with all the other ones that we've played so far, something called Premium Adventure once you beat the game, which basically lets you play the game in whatever way you want to, if the story is turned off, and you can just switch between the characters, do any sub-quests, do any side missions, anything you want to do as those characters, on top of what you already finished on your save file. So it's like a continuation of your save file without the story to go along with it. It's a pretty cool system, and I'm really glad they integrated something like that to, allow you to continue making completionist progress, essentially, without having to replay the game.
Yeah, and that's also where, like, you can take advantage of, like, costumes that you've unlocked and things like that. They're for use in Premium Adventure.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was more customization in this game. Like, I would have liked to have gone into just a store and been able to pick from different outfits and put them on. I know Kiryu has a signature outfit that he wears, and I guess that's fine, but, like, I don't know. This game, for, like, how attached they want you to get to the characters, I kind of feel that they almost don't give you enough to, like, really make them yours. Like, I would have liked a couple things that I think are in Grand Theft Auto that aren't in this, like property modification or character modification or character skins or fashion or whatever. I mean, it's fine. There's plenty to do in the game without it. It's just, I kind of wish I had it. It was a little weird.
I can understand that. I'm very much the weirdo that whenever I'm doing the Premium Adventure, I usually just pick the outfit that has Kiryu without his shirt on because he's got such a badass tattoo that I just run around and look at the tattoo. It's great. So yeah, do we want to start chatting about some of the story stuff?
I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of where we are at this point.
All right. Well then, yeah. So the game opens up and it's basically like the leader of the Omi Alliance is sick and dying, and they need to choose a predecessor, and I think it's going to be
successor.
Daigo. What did I say?
Yeah,
successor. Yeah, successor. And I believe it's Daigo.
No, it wouldn't be Daigo there. The thing that kind of happens, he's terminally ill, and they're worried. There's a internal imbalance there. There's a bunch of people looking to fill the void for the Omi Alliance, and what the worry is whoever does that is going to immediately start war with the Tojo clan. So what they're trying to do is Daigo, and he's sending his captains and everything out to different areas in Japan, trying to make alliances with different Yakuza clans throughout them, so that the Omi won't have control over all these different sections of Japan. There'll be a resistance movement in every piece of it. And so, like, Daigo's trying to make alliances with all these Yakuza families, and what he's doing in this section is he's trying to meet with the patriarch of the Yamagasa family here named Madarame. And that's kind of where we start with him. He's riding in this car with him having this meeting, essentially because it was originally supposed to happen at a hotel, and they had it moved because Daigo was worried that there was an assassination attempt or something would have happened if they had done it in a hotel at first.
And for one, his name being Madarame, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's a painter.
I know. I had that feeling too.
But yeah, and then what really stands out to me in that beginning, and we kind of already touched on it, is the scene where Daigo comes to he's in the town that Kiryu's in, and he walks, and apparently the way it works in Japan is there's a line of taxis. You go to the first one in line, and like that's the courtesy. But he goes to Kiryu's and just knocks on his window, and Kiryu is not Kiryu. He's Taichi, and he rolls the window down and he's like, "Sir, you need to get into the cab up front." He's like, "No, I think I want to get in this one." I mean, long story short. And what was good to me about that was when you get to the end of it, and they had the long conversation where Daigo is trying to basically just ask Kiryu for help. And Kiryu's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So Daigo starts kind of like talking around the things that he's getting at while knowing that Kiryu will know what he's saying. And finally, Kiryu stops the taxi and he's like, "You have to get out. Don't forget about the toll. I can't just keep driving you without a destination." And that, to me, was almost like Kiryu's way of telling Daigo, "I can't help you. You're going to have to figure this out on your own." So then Daigo gets out and all of a sudden he disappears.
Yeah, he's just gone after that. And so, yeah, it's kind of like disappears into thin air. And, Kiryu...
I'm just going to mute him. Tremendous. So, continue, sir.
Yeah, so Kiryu moves... Oh, I'm sorry, I got really distracted there. So, like, Kiryu leaves and he goes home, essentially. And you kind of find out Kiryu's kind of left the orphanage before because he was found out from because Haruko has been wanting to become a pop star, and so Kiryu has basically moved on from taking care of the orphanage and left it in somebody else's hands because it would look bad for her to be in the care of a Yakuza, essentially, especially one as well known as Kiryu.
Yeah, and they kind of reveal that in the scene too, where Kiryu goes into the ramen shop and he's trying to eat some food, and I think Haruko's on TV being talked to in a little interview or something, and the two dudes in the restaurant are like, "Oh, I can't. If anybody would let their child be an idol, they're terrible parents." Blah blah blah. And Kiryu just gets pissed off and storms out, and they're like, "Whoa, what's his problem?"
Yeah.
Obviously, he can't say anything. It's like, man.
Yeah.
See, I didn't make that connection right away because I haven't really played any of the past games, but I did get the feeling that that she at least was an orphanage member, or she was a student at the orphanage. So I at least made that connection, but I could see, like, if this is your first Yakuza game, like, you're probably not really going to understand what the bond is between Haruka and Kiryu right away. Like,
Yeah.
I only really knew about it because I was talking to you guys about it last night, and you told me, like, what game she pops in on, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, and a little bit later they do a better job of explaining the relationship between the two, but at first it's kind of implied knowledge.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had to have played some of the earlier games.
Yeah.
But that said, like, this wasn't a bad entry point. Like, for someone who hasn't played these games like you guys have, like, it didn't deter me from enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And it's hard for me to be able to kind of comment on that because obviously I started at 0 and played up through, so it's like hard for me to say like what a great entry point would be because like I know where I entered at essentially, and like I know where our buddy Paul came in at Yakuza 3, which personally after playing this many I feel like that's a wild place to come into the series is Yakuza 3.
Yeah.
And I know you're coming here at 5. Like I'm wondering what the best entry point would be if you're not coming, like, probably Kiwami? I don't know. Like, because I feel like there's much better games in the series story-wise and gameplay-wise than Kiwami, so it's really hard to say.
Just from listening to you guys talk about this series since you started with 0, I would almost argue that, like, 0 is the starting point because it's gonna be the better game, and I would almost kind of argue that maybe 3 and 4 are skippable.
It's an argument I've seen online.
Yeah.
A lot of people also say that if you start with 0, just be prepared because you're starting with the best game.
Yeah.
Which has bared true for me so far, even out spoilers, even through this game.
Yeah, see, now I kind of want to go back and play 0 after having played 5 because I got into 5 a lot easier than getting into 0. I actually struggled to get into 0, and yet the side missions in 5 are kind of what kept me going. Like, they're different side missions for each character, and the gameplay changes so frequently that you would think it would not keep you engaged, but it kept me engaged.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to what going back and playing a game that only has 2 playable characters in it would be like.
Well, go back to enough and you'll get to 1 playable character, and 6 goes back to 1 playable character as well.
Yeah, which, I don't know. I think that has its own charm, too. Like,
it definitely does, for sure.
Yeah, because then that just gives you more character development, more side quests with that one character.
Mm-hmm. So, Dalton, I don't know how much in-depth you want to go into the story, because this story... Okay, let's put it this way. This game is the second longest Yakuza game we've played to date, 0 being the only one longer. And we had to do 0 in 2 episodes, if I remember correctly, because it was so long.
Yeah. No, we don't have to go beat by beat. We can just kind of cover
because like
blanket.
Honestly, I could spend an hour talking about Kiryu. I could spend an hour talking about Saejima. It's like, whew, there's a lot going on in this game.
Basically, to sum up Kiryu's part, after he talks with Daigo disappears. They don't know what happened to him. Kiryu's trying to find out. He goes to the head of the family that Daigo was supposed to be meeting with. Shenanigans happen. I can't remember Homeboy's name, but he turns on his master and like stabs him and then throws the knife towards Kiryu and then hauls ass. But there's a bomb. It's like there's just so much in this one scene. It's like dude stabs Homeboy. He's laying on the ground. Kiryu's there ready to fight with his shirt off. There's a bomb. They leave. Dude who got stabs, like whole crew come in, see the knife, see Kiryu, see their homeboy stabbed on the ground. Other dude pretends like Kiryu had hurt him and says, "Oh, get him," and then you have to fight a whole bunch of dudes.
Yeah,
which is a theme in this game. There's a lot of times you got to fight a whole bunch of dudes.
Yeah, for sure. And it ends up as like that guy's name was Aoyama. It's hard for me to remember how to pronounce that one. And like the whole bunch of people in this section, and the other important ones were Morinaga and Aizawa, who were kind of these who were supposed to be Daigo's bodyguards who lost him that night, and so they kind of been running around trying to find Daigo, and they're the ones that brought Kiryu into the fold even deeper. And so at the end of this chapter, basically you end up Kiryu by himself ends up fighting the entirety of is it still Tojo at that time? I think it's still people from the Tojo.
It was still Tojo, yeah.
Fighting the entirety of the Tojo clan. It's like, hey, if you want to come after me, come after me. And of course, Kiryu being Kiryu. I swear he's even more godlike in this game than he has been in any other game. Just the way they treat him.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's getting to that master level now, where they're like, oh no, we can throw whatever at him. Like he's godlike.
But he's never killed anybody.
No.
Except you would never believe it by seeing how some of these fights pan out and seeing some of the effects, because blood splurts out of these people.
Yeah.
And it might not kill him, dude, but that one move that he's got, that's the finisher where he just takes their face and rakes it across the ground.
Oh my god,
yeah.
Dude, that one, like when I first saw that, because that was new to this game, if I'm remembering everything right. When I first saw that, I was like, jeez, that looks brutal.
Yeah, no, every time I saw it, I cringed. Well, that's the same thing with Saejima, because he's got a move where he, like, kicks him in the back of the head and the tooth flies out.
Yeah.
The one time I did Kiryu's, like, face grate, I did it on I guess it would be like a sewer grate in the street, and I was just like, oh my god, just rusted metal.
Yeah.
God almighty. Yeah. But
the
chapter pretty much...
I'd say at the end of Kiryu's section here, but basically he has this big fight against the entire Tojo clan. Morinaga, who was, we mentioned earlier, was the bodyguard for Daigo, ends up shooting Aoyama and reveals this has all been this massive conspiracy. But Kiryu's done his part. He's like out. He leaves, goes back to his taxi cab. But then this detective comes up and tells him, hey, I think you need to get to Kamurocho. And Kiryu's like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, all right, but I'm sure you'll listen to the news. See what you think after you hear the news. So Kiryu gets in his taxi cab, turns on the radio, and the announcement comes through that top Tojo captain Goro Majima has been killed, kind of thing. And when that happens, dude, like, I just messaged Dalton, like, what the fuck?
I was ahead of everybody, so I knew that information and was just patiently waiting for someone to get to that point. And it happened to be Nate first, and he sends me a message like, what the fuck? not Majima. And I was like, I know. Oh, man, it killed me.
So, like, at this point, like, we know they were trying real hard to get Kiryu back into action so bad that they killed Majima, even, just to get Kiryu spurred back into action.
And this is part of RGG's brilliance, is that they hit you with this major plot point, and you're like, oh, shit. And then it fades to black, and it's like, end of Kiryu's part. Welcome to Saejima. Oh, but I was just, what? And then you cut to Saejima, and, like, shocker, he's in prison.
Yeah, that part was not the best.
Yeah,
as far as gameplay wise, because you're in prison.
The way
what can you do?
Yeah, the way his part starts out is it's like it goes back in time a little bit from before Kiryu's section, where not very far, just enough to where it's like it has Saejima and Majima hanging out with each other and eating food and all this stuff before, and there's a big send off for Saejima agreeing to go back to jail and serve 2 years. And when he gets back, he's supposed to be able to become a captain of the Tojo clan for the time served and doing everything the right way, essentially. So that's kind of what he's doing. So, like, you get to play that little part first, and then you end up going to the prison, which... This is why I don't like Saijima's character very much, is because they keep putting him in the most boring situations possible. Because what do they say is the worst part about prison? It's the fact that it's boring as fuck. You do the same thing every day. It's monotonous. You don't have any sort of freedom. You don't get to run around and do things. You spend this entire time basically either A, in the room watching cutscenes, or B, in the yard just talking to people, trying to figure out what's going on. And yes, it's as boring as it sounds.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Like,
that little section is definitely a slog.
Yeah, I tried to get through that part as quickly as possible.
And it's the first 2 chapters of Saijima's section that you spend in prison.
And then they have these like imagination segments too in those chapters.
Awful.
They were terrible. I could have free roamed in those, and I chose not to because I hated it that much.
Yeah, like it did this weird thing where it's like one of his cellmates was like, "Here, come hang out with me, and I'm going to tell you about my life as a detective on the outside before I got caught doing corrupt things and sent to prison." And so, like, basically, you astrally project into this town where you're hanging out with your cellmate and doing all these things he supposedly did while he was out in his life as a detective. And, like, the way it looked on screen, like, you basically were looking at ghosts. And I was like, what is happening here? This visually is unappealing. Thematically is not fun. I'm like, why am I doing this?
The only saving grace in that part for me was the fact that Saejima and the other guys would call him on things that were bullshit. Yeah. They were like, dude, you did not fight 20 guys. He's like, you weren't there. Like, I have met people like that were just like, oh, so you can fight a bear, huh?
Yeah, right.
Speaking of which,
but no, it's like in the prison, like the big things that are happening is like there's this guy that is brought in and it's basically torturing Saejima while he's there, and Saijima's not fighting back because Saijima's trying to do what he's supposed to do to get out of prison and become a captain of the Tojo clan. And in my head,
I called that guy Evil Monster.
I was going to mention that. So this guy's name was Hiroshi Kugihara, and I think they definitely did this on purpose. It was kind of like a symbolic thing where this guy that was torturing him was also like blind in one eye and had like a big scar down it. He basically looked like Evil Majima, and I was like, I see what you're doing here. It's not working for me.
I didn't care for that character at all. I was actually happy to beat him up.
Yeah.
But he also was meant to be portrayed as a genuine scumbag.
Yeah, for sure. But so what's basically happening is in this whole section is like you're also helping one of your roommates, which is this guy that seems like a kid, like very young compared to you and your other cellmates, named Shigeki Baba, which everybody refers to as Baba-chan.
Baba-chan!
And so he's up for parole, and you're trying to talk him into accepting because he's wanting to deny it, not go, and all this stuff. And eventually he gets in trouble with Kugihara, who's been trying to rile up Saejima this whole time, and gets accused of stabbing somebody with a shiv, essentially, when it was Kugihara that did it, and his little minions. And so, like, that's what finally spurs Saejima into action in prison, essentially.
And Saejima had been getting, like, physically abused by Kugihara at this point. Like we're talking like open wounds that he's actively trying to hide from everybody, essentially, because he knows that his parole is coming up and he needs to get out so that he can take his place among the Tojo. And so he's just enduring pain that he doesn't need to endure, because A, it's taking the target off of other people at first, and B, he doesn't want to fuck up getting out. And unfortunately, like, as the story kind of unfolds a little bit, we find out that, like, that's going to get screwed up anyways, because how far do you want me to go into story here?
Oh, you can talk about whatever, dude. You're fine.
So we come to find out at this point that, like, not only he's been expelled from the Tojo because of the events of Chapter 1, but also there's, like, a whole bunch of inmates coming in. And there's actually, like, a police officer is helping him out with this. And basically telling him all this. And basically, like, your life is in danger. Your parole's been denied. I don't think that this is because of anything you did. They think it's something is happening on the outside. And there's no reason that your parole should have been denied because you were kicked out of the Tojo clan, which means there's no reason to keep you in here anymore. So,
and what I found interesting is that guard, or I guess the captain, was basically like he would rather let them escape than have his prison be corrupted.
Yeah, and I
thought that was valiant.
So he gives Baba-chan and Saejima a means to escape, and again, this is another one of those big fight scenes because you do end up having to fight those 100 inmates that transfer in, because turns out, they are out to kill Saejima. And so
one thing I appreciate that they do in the large scale fights is that most of the dudes have very small health bars. Yeah. So like you walk in and hit them like with a 2-piece and they drop, and it makes you feel real badass.
Yeah, like Power Rangers versus putties at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I appreciate that too. And then thankfully, like, even though there's a prison, like, you do still get like healing items. And you can survive that just based on, like, this ointment an old man gives you. And then that's your healing item until you get out of prison and you end up in, honestly, one of my favorite parts of the game. Because you get
the snowmobile?
What's that?
I said, the snowmobile?
Not the snowmobile. That was stupid.
I was going to say, that part was real weird.
Yeah, no, that was stupid and trippy. No, the little mountain town that you end up with, and the hunter who saves you from this, like, basically giant bear, which then brings us into Saejima's story, because you end up fist fighting the bear. You just get him to walk away, like, you don't kill him. And so then you end up, due to this hunter who rescued you, learning how to hunt, and you go into the mountain and you set traps and you have a rifle and you shoot bear and you shoot deer, and you're basically helping the town through this blizzard because hunting is the only way for them to get food at the moment because they're cut off from the rest of the world. And you end up spending like a good few days in there, and you end up, if you do the side story, you bond with that hunter and he teaches you, and you ultimately get better at hunting. And I just really liked that side story for some reason. I know you're shaking your head, Nate. I liked it because it reminded me of Monster Hunter Freedom Unite for the PSP, not necessarily in the gameplay, but in the fact that you start that game in a snowy town and you go into a snowy mountain, and just like the sound of your feet hitting the snow and the wind whistling in your ear, and just the overall atmosphere just gave me nostalgia for that old game. And so as a result, I ended up liking that side story.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That chapter could have just been titled "The Chapter Nate Could Not Give a Single Flying Fuck About." I got out of Chapter 3 of Saejima's section as fast as I could. Because it's the game's fault in a way, I believe. Because we had just been stuck in prison for 2 whole chapters, and now you're telling me I'm going to be stuck in this tiny blizzard-ridden town with nothing to do other than the side mission for another chapter. I was like, please let me play this video game at some point.
It's interesting how we differ, because you want to know what chapter I hated? It wasn't 3, it was 4, when you finally get into the town, or into the city, because the random battles in that city were cranked up to freaking 11, and I could not take 2 steps without having to beat somebody up. And for somebody who's trying to like lay low and avoid the law, like why do we have such a high encounter rate?
And Saejima in this game has my least favorite fighting style. He had my least favorite fighting style in 4, and this was my least favorite section of the game, period, was Saijima's part. It just, none of it worked for me on the way that... storytelling, I don't think it was the worst, but gameplay-wise, this section just suffered for me.
Yeah, I'm willing to agree on that. Like, even though I liked the hunting part in Chapter 3, and I liked his side story, and it gave me a chance to kind of, like, get to know him as a character, like, that section compared to the other 2 sections I played were definitely the least entertaining.
So after that section, Saejima heads to Sapporo to try to figure out what happened with Majima's death, because by this time he's heard about it as well. And they go to meet up with the Kitakata, I think that's how you would pronounce it, Kitakata, Patriarch Taitso Kitakata. And he revealed that he was not the one who killed Majima, and that Majima had suspected foul play, but the dude gets shot by a sniper, like while he's talking to Saejima. Saejima sees the shooter and chases them down and finds him, and it's Baba-chan. And you learn that Baba was actually tasked to kill Saejima. He had been in on all that shit in the prison, but wouldn't you know it, Saijima's a lovable bastard, and Baba became fond of him and can't bring himself to kill him. And like Saejima just like forgives him because Saijima's like Kiryu and he's too goddamn nice.
Yep. And this is where the game gets a little bit twisty and interesting too, is because like after this section and Baba-chan is let to leave and everything, Saejima gets arrested by this detective, and it's the same detective that was the one that told Kiryu to listen to the radio about Majima's death. And so Saejima gets picked up by this detective, but instead of taking him to jail, he kind of just takes him down to Kamurocho and is like, hey, since we're working on the same thing here, you need to go to Kamurocho and figure out what's going on. And so that's where we leave Saejima, is in Kamurocho after the Baba-chan stuff.
Yep, and then it cuts to Haruka. And let me tell you, dude, she is the most badass fighter in the entire game. No, this is definitely like a break from the seriousness. Well, I say that there's some seriousness to her story, but let's just go ahead and talk about this because I don't know how far in the story Mikolov is with Haruka, but let's just talk about Haruka's gameplay.
I am in chapter 2 of her story.
Chapter 2. Okay. So, gameplay-wise, Haruka is attempting to become an idol. So, you are playing her as she is training to become an idol. And you have to like get this Christian, this dancer. You have to convince him to come and help you. That was his name, right? Christina. But it's a rhythm. They're rhythm games. Like all her little dancing sections. There's 2 different kinds. There's like one where there are like these lines that come out, and the buttons you need to press come down the lines, and you need to press them. And then there's dance battles where you battle other dancers. And that style is a bit different. You have to use the D-pad up, down, left, or right to get it in the right position and hit the corresponding buttons that it's showing in that section. I found the normal, just idle stuff to be really easy. There were a couple battles that some of the songs got slightly tricky.
Yeah.
With quick switches.
Yeah. It was very tricky. To the point where I kind of avoided dance battles, and I'm actually really glad that it wasn't a random battle mechanic. You have to go up and initiate those dance battles and commit to them. Also, kind of interesting on how Haruka's health is based on how well she does at jobs or how well she does in the dance battles. Like, they found a way to integrate the health bar and the heat gauge into her unique style of gameplay. And I'm actually glad, like, after Saejima section where I was just like taking 2 steps and having a fight, taking 2 steps and having a fight again, and going into Haruka section after that, it's kind of a nice breath of fresh air because now you have no random encounters and everything that you need to do to level up, you have to initiate. And so it gives you a little bit more freedom to kind of enjoy other parts of the game.
Yeah.
I get that. So one thing is the handshake events. I got really good at those.
Yeah, so did I.
So I accidentally skipped through the explanations. So like it took me 2 or 3 of them to realize that the dudes that come up in the pink jackets are your super fans. So once I realized that, dude, when they would come up and I would shake their hand, I would use all of my shoot the security guard, a pretty little eye flash, and they would let them stay longer because you get more points for those guys. So I would just then just cruise through the rest of them and be maxed out on every single one of them. Like it was easy sailing after I figured that out, but like I don't know, there was something so simple, but I really liked doing the handshake events. I don't know why. Not as much as I liked the rhythm game stuff. Like I really liked Haruka's rhythm game stuff to the point that I was like, I wish they would release more idle games on PC. They're all on like Vita and Switch, and like give me an idle game on PC. I would play it. Give me a cabaret / idle game.
Yakuza mini games, the game. No, I agree. I thought it was really fun and well done. And like her dance battle, if you do go far enough down that rabbit hole, it has its own side story too, where you end up helping somebody out through that as well. So I thought that was a pretty neat touch in there too, that actually did come to a head and had a meaning in the end.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so how do we want to go about this? Because there's a few more things with her story that we need to cover, but I don't want to spoil anything for Mikolov. So Mikolov, is this where you want to dip?
This is where I will take myself a break. I will go pee, and I'll come back, and I'll put my headphones on when I see the two of you waving your hands frantically.
Okay. Sounds good.
All
right. So the main story with Haruka is she's trying to become the big idol pop star, and the lady in charge, Miss Park, Mirai Park, kind of a hard ass, but I really respected her. Like she didn't take no shit, and I liked her a lot. But not to like get into the gritty details of it because there's a lot to it. But she pisses off one of her ex dance instructor. He ends up. So there's this scene with Haruka and Miss Park wants to. I keep wanting to say Park-san. Well, I guess that's right, but it makes me think of Pak-san, and I'm like, no, that's not right. So yeah, Miss Park-san takes her out shopping, and they kind of have like a girl day, and they really enjoy each other. And then she gives her lucky pen and says, I also have this, and it's a letter from my ex-husband, and he wanted me to meet him the day before the big show in Tokyo that you're going to do, but I want you to go meet him for me. I don't think he'll be able to I don't want him to see me being old like I am now. So Haruka thinks that's weird, but she agrees to it, and then she comes into the office the next day, and Miss Park's son had quote unquote jumped from the roof.
Yeah.
And
at that point, it switches you characters immediately again because you finally hit a climactic moment, and now you're still in part 3, but now you're moved over to Akiyama and find out about his involvement. And what Akiyama's doing is opening a branch in Sotenbori, which is the area that Haruka's in right now. Akiyama, turns out, where Park had gotten all this money from was she had borrowed from Sky Finance, which was Akiyama's finance company. And he was like, it has its own lore that comes from Yakuza 4, but essentially what you need to know about it is he lends large amounts of money with no interest paid, but they have to prove themselves worthy of it. And she was able to do that for him.
And I was trying to remember, was she the one who came to him in 4 and asked him for the money? No? Okay.
That's a different character. But essentially, so now Akiyama is really invested in trying to figure out, doesn't believe for a second that Park would commit suicide after all she went through to get the money from him to begin with. So Akiyama ends up going down to where she works and it's like, holy shit, you're Haruka. Because they had known each other from Yakuza 4. And Haruka's like, oh my god, Akiyama-san.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
So that was one of my favorite moments, honestly, was them meeting up because, like, they had known each other in the past. You were wondering when you were finally going to get some characters together, and it happened to be those were the first 2, and they were really happy to see each other. But what you end up finding out is, like, her old dance instructor was the one that kind of threw her off the thing, because she does it to her manager too. Yeah. It's just like, okay, get a new idea, bud. And there's this big mysterious man with him that you're like, oh, this guy must be the guy that's in charge. And Akiyama fights him and kicks him in the head, and it basically does nothing to him. And then you go into this really cool boss fight.
Oh yeah, Big Ugly. Yeah. That's what I called that guy the whole game. Big Ugly. Yeah, yeah, that guy was a hard ass though. Like, fucking hell.
Ends up being a name. Named Kamon Kanai, who's captain of Usaka Enterprises, which is apparently, they find out, one of the top families in, guess who? The Omi Alliance. So this is all starting to tie together even more.
Yep, and that's when Akiyama starts doing a little more like detective work, and they start realizing like the suicide note that Miss Parkson left, not her handwriting.
Mm-hmm. And
because
you find out who this letter was to. You find out who Park Sun's ex-husband was, and holy crap!
Right, because she's just like, oh, her ex-husband was Goro Majima, and then it shows a picture of Majima, her, and then the other guy that was the head of the rival talent agency,
who they had apparently all been friends this whole time.
Yeah, and that guy also did not believe that she committed suicide.
Right.
He's like, no, there's no way. Well, it turns out like the letter that all these guys, they're all after this letter from Majima, or that she wrote to Majima.
It was from Majima to her, because they're trying to see where Majima had been, because they're like, oh, Majima had sent this letter. We need to make sure prove that this is him, because it's starting to seem weird that Majima would have been able to send this letter after he was supposed to have disappeared.
Yes, that's right, because then they're like, oh, well, this needs a key. This safe has a really weird key slot. And then Akiyama's like, didn't she give you a pen?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah. They're like, oh, wait a minute. And it fits perfectly. And that ends up being the key. So it's like, it's almost like Park-sun knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's like she gave Haruka everything she needed to figure things out. Per se. And then basically the rest of it is just, they're not going to let the Japan Dome show not happen.
Yeah, they're committed to making sure the show happens, because this was Park-san's dream, was to train an idol up and make her the next big thing. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happened in that chapter too, but just that was kind of like the big important pieces of it. And once we've decided once you decide to, Akiyama and Haruka start heading towards Kamurocho, and then the game changes characters one more time.
And this is the weird one. This is the one that's like the cop was in 4, where it's like, all right, so new character, who is this guy? This dude, Tatsuya Shinada, a baseball player.
Ex-baseball player who had one home run that he hit and was accused of sign stealing, which is in baseball when you're reading the opponent's hand signals to be able to see what kind of throw they're going to pitch and all that kind of stuff. But was accused of sign stealing and was immediately banned from the game after hitting one home run in his first game in the major leagues.
Yeah, like homeboy. To glaze over it, because this part's honestly like one of my least favorite parts in the game was this whole section. And if there's more, feel free, we can dive in a little bit. But like he ends up finding out that like he was like the whole thing was a frame job, because like if you're listening to it, it doesn't make sense. Like, like because he gets asked, were you stealing signs? He's like, no, no, I wasn't. And you learn later, no, he really didn't. But there was a reason why he was able to smash that ball.
Yeah. And today, now he's just in huge debt, just living day paycheck to paycheck, essentially trying to pay off this Yakuza debtor that he's loaned money. He took money from, and who's just constantly hitting up, hey, pay me back, pay me back, pay me back. So what ends up happening is this random stranger in this mask shows up and is like, I want you to find out what really happened those 10 years ago when you were kicked out of the league. Start looking at this. I will pay you what your salary was supposed to be from playing in the league, essentially. Has this briefcase full of money. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. But that Yakuza debtor guys, they're like, no, you're going to do it. Otherwise, we're going to cut off your fingers and pay off your debt that way.
Yeah, Takasugi. Yeah. I come around on him. By the end of chapter 4, I loved Takasugi. I thought he was
Takasugi
awesome.
Reminded me a lot of that guy from Yakuza 0 who was basically Majima's handler.
Yeah.
So I actually really liked him a lot. And so at this point, Shinada takes the job and starts tracking down what had happened to him. It all core kind of ends in like there's this weird, mysterious Yakuza family that nobody really knows anything about that's in charge of this town. You find out there's not really a Yakuza family. It's just that all these people are kind of joined together and pretending to be a Yakuza family.
Yeah, they call themselves the Nagoya family, and then you realize it's like just citizens that pretend that there's Yakuza because it makes people stay online. And
but what essentially had happened was there was Yakuza interference within professional baseball, and we found out that it was the Omi Alliance who had done all this stuff that basically was the reason that he got kicked out, because there was Stein stealing, there was match rigging so that they could make money off of gambling in professional baseball, essentially. It all gets really convoluted, but essentially you find out that, oh, no, we need to stop this, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to come back and take over this area of town again with the Omi Alliance, and Shinada basically fights through it. How does that part end, Dalton?
Yeah, it's like he fights, and then the ex-baseball player who threw the pitch ends up showing up. He's like a chef, and he answers this phone call, and then you have to fight him in a stupid fight where he's really, really strong and has a knife, and it's just a pain in the ass fight. And you beat him, and the dude's like, Shinada's like, tell me who is in charge of Nagoya, like what is going on? And dude pulls out his phone and dials a number and holds the phone up. He says, when you hear the voice, you'll know who it is. And Shinada takes the phone, and the voice is of his old baseball captain.
Manager, yeah. His team manager.
Or manager, yep. And then it cuts to that guy being in his office, and he's calling to the newspaper, and he's trying to tell him, like, hey, I need you to run this in tonight's newspaper. It's like make or break for my career. And then he gets on the phone and calls somebody else and is talking to somebody like it's his boss. And then it cuts to finale.
Yeah.
And this is where shit starts to get a little crazy, because it's just like everybody trying to make sure this concert happens, but there's also like a lot of other things going on.
Yeah, I'm okay with kind of cutting off the story talk there, because I think that the only thing I want to mention is Majima's not dead, and there's one really cool scene with Majima that I guess I don't really want to talk about the whole ending of it, because it kind of like, without playing it, I don't know how impactful it is. I mean, you can talk about the ending a little bit, but it's just like, I'm just kind of like, I don't feel like describing the game too much anymore.
No, you're fine. If there's one thing with Majima to talk about, that's fine. There's one scene that I wanted to bring up too in particular, and then we don't really have to go into like specific details. So
we found out Majima's alive, and it's basically each character has their own final boss, essentially, and Majima ends up being Taijima's final boss. And in this fight, Majima is so freaking cool, dude. Like the way they have him fight and everything. There's at one point where he splits himself off into like 6 different Majima clones, and he's doing Shadow Majima Jitsu. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I loved that so much, just that image, and like it was really cool.
Yeah, that was a great fight too. There's actually 2 things in the ending I want to bring up. One is the moment where Baba is going. He's lined up. He's going to shoot Haruka, and he loses it. So he puts the gun away, and then Baseball Boy comes in and is talking to him, and all of a sudden Baba starts, I guess, really regretting what he's doing, because he turns the gun and he points it to himself under his head. Now, this is a sniper rifle that he's got aimed up under his head, so like he is not going to survive.
He's trying to Kurt Cobain.
There's the whole like exactly, or Courtney Love, depending on who you talk to. But like, so they do this really good, impactful, suspenseful moment where Shinada's like, Baba-chan! And you hear a boom, and it cuts to Shinada kind of covering his face, and he looks back, and Baba-chan's still there, and the gun is out of his hand, and it's bent, and it cuts to the left, and it's just the dudes from prison and
how
the prison
did they get
guard.
There?
How did they know how to... Yeah, there was so many questions that I had, but at the same time, I was like, fuck yeah.
I guess you could make a point that Saijima might have set that up a little bit, but it was kind of goofy, but I liked it too.
But that he just goes, I told you I was a pretty good shot. It's just great, right? So the other thing I want to talk about is the concert finishes. It's all happy. Haruka ends up telling everybody that her dad's in the Yakuza anyway. Like, her career's over. She did her one show. She's like Lestat and Queen of the Damned, one and done. And this game ended the same way Yakuza 3 ended. It's like, all of a sudden, Kiryu is just like bleeding out. Now, Kiryu had been injured before the final boss fight, so like he's bleeding out from a different way, but still bleeding from the stomach like he was in 3, and he just falls to the ground, and then Haruka comes running up to him and is like cradling her in her arms, and they're talking, and the camera pans backwards, and that's the end.
Yeah.
There is a post-credit Marvel scene. I can't remember what it was because I beat the game a month ago.
No, that was the post-credit Marvel scene.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, there you go. So it's like they were really keen on making you think Kiryu dies a lot.
But no, not this time, not ever.
Yeah.
But the fake out with Majima being dead in the game was pretty good, though. But I hated the fact that it means we got a game without much Majima content.
I know, and it was funny that me and you both were in the chat like, no way he's dead. There's no way. Can't believe it.
Refuse.
Won't believe it. All right, let me see if I can. We're so
right.
You done spoiling shit?
Yeah. We talked about the finale of the game. We're good.
Oh, okay.
So we want to give some ratings. All right, so I'm gonna go first for once. I'm gonna go first. So I really enjoyed this. This ended up being one of the better stories in a Yakuza game, I think, overall. It did have its slog parts, but I feel like Haruka's section made up for it. That's just me. And this is one that I could see myself going back and replaying so I could do some more of the side stuff that I kind of golden pathed past.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize we would have as long as we did.
Right.
So I'm going to give this one a solid...
Snake.
I'm going to give it a solid 8.75 Harukas out of 10 Baba-chan.
Fair.
What's you, Nate?
I am extraordinarily torn. I'm not sure if this is my second favorite or third favorite Yakuza game at this point. It's second or third to obviously Yakuza 0, and Kiwami 2 is my other one that I count as my either second or third favorite. This game is very good. It has its slog moments, but it also has a lot of really interesting stuff that makes up for it. I think that the story overall is better than Kiwami 2. I do think some of the gameplay and some of the story does slag behind it. I do think Kiwami 2 had a much more interesting final main antagonist to the story than this one did. But at the same time, the overall story in 5 is so good. I might just say, because I'm going to be a cop-out little bitch right now, I'll just say they're tied for my second favorite Yakuza game, this one and Kiwami 2. Very good games. I am going to go ahead, because we all know the scores we give in the past don't really matter, so I don't care if this is higher or lower than anything else I've given it. I'm giving this one a 9 baseball bats out of 10 really cool Akiyama suits.
Oh, yeah. What about you, Mikolov?
So
if you want to give it a rating.
No, I'm definitely giving it a rating, even though I'm only about halfway through, because I'm still 42 hours into this game.
Yeah.
And only halfway through. This is a long boy.
Yes.
But the story kind of roped me in. I'm enthralled with the characters. Keep in mind, my review is going to be different from everyone else's, just based on the fact that this is my first Yakuza game. And I feel like this game doesn't know what it wants to be. Like, 1 minute you're fighting, the next minute you're hunting bears, the next minute you're trying to become a teen idol, and then in between all that, you can go play darts, you can go bowling, you can play pool.
You can play Virtual Fighter 2.
You can play Virtual Fighter 2, you can go to an arcade. And so this game just does a lot of different things. But it does a lot of different things well. Like, you would think for a game that has all of these different mechanics that it would suck. And it doesn't. Like, even the mechanics that aren't the best, they're still passable.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I will continue to enjoy it. I'm going to have a hard time figuring out whether to play this or Octopath, because I really just want to play this. And it's been a while since I've had a game that I've just wanted to pick up and play all the way through. And even though there are some things that I wish it had that it doesn't have, like, this is a solid series. And if the gameplay is anything like this in the other games, then I will continue to play them and enjoy them. So I'm going to go 8 cabaret clubs out of 10 karaoke bars.
Beautiful. And I think Willie's going to give it a solid out of a
Yeah.
Willie.
All right. So I guess that brings us to the listener questions. This first one, Mikolov, I'm just going to give to you because I've played it, but I don't know enough about it. And I know Nate knows nothing. So what was your favorite Ragnarok online class and why? Pre-ascended.
Okay.
This comes in from
I
the
must have let
Dankest.
slip that I played a lot
you.
of Ragnarok Online in college, which surprisingly Willie and Nate did not, because that was something that our core group of internet friends at the time just kind of played. And I liked the Knight. I continue to like the Knight. The Knight had a really cool mechanic where you could do one of two things. You could either go strength and just be slow but very powerful, or you could go speed and you can activate this skill that basically doubled your attack speed and just turned you into an absolute freaking powerhouse, because you would pop it, you would turn yellow, and you would just go whack, 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 and numbers would go flying, and that was one of my favorite classes to play. It was my first.
I gotta say, usually when I go whack, 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 things go flying as well.
Are they numbers, Dalton?
I'm sorry.
Are they numbers?
Continue. Oh yeah, you know it. Metal by numbers.
Yeah. So I like Knight. That's my answer.
I think that's what I'm playing as too. I think that's what I created. It's just a melee character, a knight. So I will answer that as well, even though I have little to no knowledge about it. I do enjoy the game though. The graphic aesthetic I love it.
I will never go back to that game. I spent way too much time in college. I wonder if my character is still on the server even. Would be
Only one way to find out.
I'm not doing it. I don't even remember what server I was on. It's been that long. Although it is free to play now. It's just, I think if you pay, you get like perks. So I guess I could technically go in and try and find my character, but I'm not going to. My character was badass too. It was a knight with a basically like a cowboy style. Actually, there is no cowboy style about it. There's a cowboy hat and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Nice.
But he was badass, and I remember that hat being expensive.
So our next question comes in from Mr. Dane Puzzles, Esquire the Third. Situation: you want to convince a grumpy duck to play this series, meaning Yakuza, but he's difficult to amuse and /or intrigue. Challenge: what series moment would you cite as the funniest /coolest Yakuziest? Oh, the Yakuziest, Jeff, instead of Cthulhu. Anyway, yeah. Thing to convince this grumpy duck to try Yakuza, asking for a friend.
Jeff, stop being a duck and play the damn game.
I simply wouldn't try.
All right, and I'm going to say, do whatever you want. So I'll be right there in the middle. It's like, he tells you to play it. He tells you don't play it. I'm going to say, do what you want, Jeff. If there was one scene, I think Jeff would enjoy the cabaret stuff in Zero. I really, for some reason, think he would. I think he would dress up the girls really pretty and make buku money, and he would enjoy doing that. Or fist fighting tigers.
Yeah, that's true.
And Kiwami too. It's always fun.
Punching bears.
All right. Sorry, Dane, I don't have a better answer. They're just good. Just fucking play them, Jeff. God damn it. So this next one comes in from Mr. Grumpy Media Dump himself. What is the best way to cook a grumpy duck? What sort of spices will bring out the flavor?
This was a direct response to Dane's question, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I think, Jeff, if you were to take yourself and put you in a boiling vat of water, right? Spices, you're probably going to want to do salt, pepper, maybe some paprika, a little coriander, maybe a little hot sauce if you're feeling froggy, right? But we're going to put you in a boiling pot of water just to parboil you. Then we're going to take you out. We're going to drop you in a nice hot searing pan with oil in it. We're going to fry you up so you get real crispy and delicious, right? And then we're going to take you and we're going to fillet you into nice pieces of fresh fried duck. And we're going to lay you out over a nice bed of steamed white sushi rice. And we're going to give it a drizzle of a nice soy sauce over it. Maybe a slight drizzle of a yum yum sauce. Hit it with some Salt Bay style with some chives. Serve that bitch up. Enjoy your... And you know what? I'm going to make it spicy. It's going to have sriracha on it because it's grumpy. And that is the grumpy duck.
What he said.
See, I like a good roasted duck curry. I have no idea how to make roasted duck. I go to a Thai restaurant. I order roasted duck curry. I eat the roasted duck curry. I'll have some roasted Jeff curry.
I will not, but go for it.
All right. So... Oh, Nate, I'm glad you caught these because these were a little.
And these were actually relevant to the show.
Yeah, my goodness. All right, so these last few come in from Adam. I think we already kind of answered this, but I'm going to answer it again. What Adam wants to know: what did you think of the idol section in Yakuza 5?
Loved it. I really enjoyed it. I think that it was basically a upgrade, a complete upgrade to the karaoke section of Yakuza. It was just like a better, well thought out, complete almost rhythm game within the Yakuza game. I can see why somebody would not want to do this. I could see somebody being very, very irritated with it because it's just so opposed to every other section of the game, and it adds a completely new element that has never been required before. So like I said, karaoke's always been a part of the game. There always has been a rhythm game component, but it's never been a requirement to beat the game before like it is here. So I could see it irritating some people, but I thought it was fun.
See, I like that even for how little I know about Haruka's character, just from this game essentially, I like that they didn't like write in that she got like karate training or got like training on how to defend herself or some nonsense. Like, they could have very easily copped out and had regular fights in her section and just wrote in like, oh yeah, she was trained or whatever. And they didn't. They just made her a regular teenager with a singing and dancing talent, and they just changed the gameplay to reflect that. And I thought that was the better choice.
There is one section with Haruka that you can do combat in.
Oh.
But it's the VR game. So did you ever fuck with that? With the guy that looked like Dr. Brown from
I haven't.
Yeah.
But
okay, so
the part
when you're running around, there's like a VR, it's called like IR8 or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, you anyway, it's like a side-scrolling beat 'em up that you play with each of the characters. But when you're Haruka, she has like a princess wand that like shoots out balls of energy that you hit the.
Yes.
So she doesn't actually fist fight.
She like casts spells and stuff. It's funny.
Again, like just again, like they didn't cop out with the development of her character. They just changed the gameplay to reflect who she is.
Yeah, 100%. And I, for one, I just want to say I never felt the need to do any of her stuff on easy. I did them all on normal. Her little like the dance challenges and stuff because you could choose the difficulty. And I'm assuming that easy is real fucking easy because normal was not.
Yeah, I would have to assume that as well. I think they probably added that easy section in for the reasons that I said because...
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to loop that back around and be like, that was probably there for the people that you're talking about that just do not play rhythm games. People that can't snap.
Oh, see, I don't know what you guys said because that was in your spoiler section, but I played on easy because I wanted to just look at the dancing. Which is kind of weird to say, but like I wanted to see the character movement and all that. I didn't want to just stare at buttons.
Yeah.
So I did that just to get more out of what I was seeing on the screen.
Okay.
I will say that first Haruka's dance number song, like the full like singing song, that one does get stuck in my head still occasionally.
Oh, me too. It's in there right now, living rent free.
All right, so real quick, Mikolov, I know you're not probably looking at these questions, but do not click this and read this one of these last questions.
Don't
even look at it right now.
Do you want me to duck out again for it?
No, not at all. Okay. We can answer it without telling you what it is. I'm just saying don't read it because it's just got a little spoilered part.
Oh, okay.
But the next question, coming in from Adam, is which character did you guys vibe with the most?
Combat-wise, it says. Like, which character combat do you vibe with the most?
Oh, man, my eyes read right over the word. Jesus. Yeah, so what combat did you vibe with the most, and why was it Akiyama?
It's 100% Akiyama. He's just... Okay, because Kiryu is super smooth and easy to use and fun to fight with. He's easily the second most fun combat in the game. Akiyama somehow is smoother, more fun, and they gave him this ability in this game where, like, if you can trigger the special thing to kick somebody up in the air and basically Super Saiyan beat the shit out of him in the air.
It's awesome.
It's just like everything they did with him was so smooth and cool and fun. Like, Akiyama was awesome.
Yeah, you're gonna love him when you get to him, Mikolov. He throws nothing but kicks.
Okay.
Like he's just a badass. Like, I don't know how else to describe. I love Akiyama. Yeah, he's the man.
I mean, that's
so out of the guys you played with.
I mean, that said, I only played as Kiryu and Saejima, and Kiryu's fighting was definitely the better of the two. Saejima is just clunky. I didn't like fighting as him.
Saejima's fighting style is extraordinarily clunky. It makes sense for his character archetype, but God, it's not very fun.
Not really.
Slow and brooding.
Like, I didn't care for it at all. But, I mean, I went through it. I did it. But, like, I didn't even do all of his training missions. And I did all of Kiryu's training missions.
Oh, I didn't do anybody's training mission.
Yeah, but you unlock abilities by doing that. So I wanted to unlock all their abilities. And I just didn't unlock all of Saejima's. Like, I don't think we talked about this during the show proper. But, like, that God of the Mountain segment in Saejima's storyline, I hated it so much. Just why?
I felt that way about the obligatory snowball fight.
Oh my gosh.
I know we didn't talk about that, but I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so this last question. Let me see. Leave this one until after you guys have finished the game. Again, this comes in from Adam. What direction would you like the series to have taken had the game ended the way that they portrayed?
Yeah, if that would have happened, I would have liked to have seen the series continue on, take a change, switch to a new main character. I would have liked to have seen them move on to Akiyama as the solo main character of the series. I feel like he's an interesting enough character to be able to do it. He was the most fun character other than Kiryu to play in the two games that he was in with Kiryu. He made it to both games, unlike some other characters. Like, he was just a really fun and cool character. I would have been happy to have played Akiyama-based Yakuza games.
Yeah, I concur. I think that Akiyama would have been the strong choice. I don't think characters like Shinada or anything would have made sense. Saejima, I mean, there's an argument that you could make, but like, God, if it's going to be a whole game of Saejima in prison.
Saejima in prison or Saejima combat style, like where I'm going to have to fight like that every Yakuza game, like...
I don't think I would play a Yakuza game where Saejima is the only character. I don't think anybody would.
Yeah. Which sucks, he's not a bad character, but like the stories he gets put in aren't the most fun, and then his gameplay is not the most fun.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, I warmed up to him as a character. Like,
I like him fine as a character, yeah.
But I feel like we could have gotten that character development having him just be like secondary to Kiryu or something. Mm-hmm. Like, I just didn't like playing as him.
Yeah.
If Saejima was a character in a TV show I was watching, I would really enjoy it because I wouldn't have to play any boring sections with him, you know. But yeah, so I think that would have been the go-to probably is Akiyama, how he handles like helping Haruka and things like that, and then the game's transitioning over to Ichiban in Like a Dragon, which is Yakuza 7. And I love, I'll bring this up probably every time the game comes up, but I love that game being turn-based started out as an April Fool's joke. That everyone was like, yo, that's actually pretty sweet. So they went and they made the game turn-based. Like, that's just incredible. But all right, boys, that's all the questions that we got. That's Yakuza 5 in the books. Our next big game was selected by a patron. So thank you very much to the Dankest, and we are going to be playing Octopath Traveler 2. I have already started it, and it is already good. So it's I'm happy with the choice. With that being said, we're probably going to need at least one short game. I'm thinking maybe two. But since this game is an HD 2D style, I figure we pull from the retro poll and we play a little bit of River King, The Legend of the River King. I think that is going to be our next game up in 2 weeks, and then after that, it'll either be another short game or it'll be Octopath. We'll see how that goes. But before I get into house cleaning and stuff like that, make love, plug your stuff, my good sir.
TeamRetrogue on YouTube and the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter. I think those are the only 3 I have. But yeah, TeamRetrogue.
All right, Nate, is there anything you'd like to plug, my good sir?
Nope, I am good, brother.
All right, then, if you would please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes and Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think of the show. If you leave a 5-star review and leave a little comment on iTunes, I will read it out on the shows. If you want to check out the Discord, that's where all the cool people are at. We got new people joining here lately, and they've all been super chill. So I'm like super happy about that. It is bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all capital letters. That'll get you a link in. Come join for free. Come hang out. Come vote on the polls. You want to check out the website, bit.ly/The Steam Machine Podcast, capitalized phonetically. That is kept up to date by Mr. Puzzle. So thank you very much, sir. Patreon.com/The Steam Machine Podcast, where you can donate to the show. It helps keep the lights on over here at Casa de Sutra. Man, I couldn't remember the word Casa. I was going to say comma. I'm like, that's not right. Kama Sutra? No. The Casa de Sutra helps keep the lights on over here. That is patreon.com/The Steam Machine Podcast. $1 or more a month gets you the episodes early, ad-free, and get a little bit of banter in the beginning of the episodes. That's just for the patrons. But if you donate $10 or more, you get all of that, plus your name read on each and every episode like these wonderful, wonderful people. Nate Sir Cogsworth, the 7th of June-iper, Jeff, the original Expendable, Mr. Syllables, Old Jeffy Lube. Also, he's a duck. Ariesoradam, shout out to his podcast, Revival and Extinction. I think it's got a new name, and I don't remember what it is, but I'm sure he'll correct me. TeamRetrogue, go check him out over on YouTube. Mr. Puzzles, Dane himself, Chad the Mad Lad, no goddamn C in his last name, Shaffer. Flyin Brian, Doran Gray, RPG Wolverine, Logan Joreid, and the Dankest. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Shout out to the JRPG Report, bi-weekly JRPG news show that I put out. We keep you up to date with all of the goodness. Recently, Atlas trademarked Persona 4 Remake. So we'll be possibly seeing that coming, I'm sure. I'm sure that they milked a lot out of Persona 3 and realized that there's more money to be made. Shout out to Grumpy Jeff's Grumpy Jeff's Pro Wrestling Power Hour. It's the monthly show that me and Dane do, and Dane's a new wrestling fan, and I am an old head, so I'm showing him all the goodness. And it's been a blast so far. Other than that, man, we'll be back in about 2 weeks to talk to you about some Legend of the River King for the original Game Boy Color, I believe. Might have been original Game Boy.
Original Game Boy, Super Game Boy Enhanced, and then it came out for Game Boy Color.
Sweet. So I have a choice of which version I want to play.
So, do you want cream spinach or do you want actual color? I might actually play it black and white. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I do love cream spinach. But on that note, everybody, until next time, sayonara.